obviously a brand new week, back in the SEC play, back home again. Guys are practicing hard, trying their best to keep the positive energy and being positive, make sure we're ready for the Vanderbilt Commodores to come into town. Any questions?
It's the frustrating part about last weekend is just the accumulation of yards and stuff like that they were able to get with the running game. Is there any kind of, I guess, relief in that, knowing you're not going to face a system that's quite committed to run the ball like that and doing things like that is maybe a little different than what you got coming up?
I mean, definitely there's never a lot of relief whenever teams pile up yards like that on that amount of plays and 57 rushes. And the 57 rushes is something that you can't really control how many times they decide to run, but you can obviously limit the amount of runs by getting off the field. And so they had 57 rushes for 220 something, and too many times they had a 20+ yard run. I think two or three, maybe three 20+ yard runs. That kind of is going to really push the number up high. But definitely no relief. We still got SEC football games and an ACC opponent left. I mean, the team's gonna run the ball, so we got to do a better job of stopping it, be more consistent. We have in a couple games in the SEC, we just got to be more consistent and do it every single time we're out there.
Clay, we've been talking about the snap counts from a defensive standpoint, especially for the defensive backs, and I know it's been high this season. I think Marcellus had like 90 this past week, and at this point of the year, obviously everyone's banged up, but as a defensive coordinator, how much of that do you try to taper some of the things from a practice standpoint when it comes to some of your defensive guys while still being able to work on some of the fundamentals so that you can clean things up from the previous week?
Yep. Good question. We are definitely on high alert on the snap count that our guys participate on Saturdays. We have our strength staff, our nutrition staff, also our athletic training staff on just high alert, and also the position coaches and the coordinator on how we script plays and make sure that we're monitoring it and we're watching it very closely. We got to put the work in. Other guys are playing the same amount of snaps, but it feels like we're the most because this is where we focus on that. But we as a unit, as a program, we're definitely well aware, and we have GPS systems and just watching those guys to make sure that we're not tapping them out before Saturday. But those guys also have to meet us halfway with hydration, nutrition, sleep, and all that good old stuff. And our guys do a pretty good job of that.
Hey, Clayton, hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you a little bit about third downs last week. I think Jacksonville State went like 10 for 19. Where do you feel like things kind of went wrong in those situations, and what can you guys do in like practice and leading up to the game in order to be better in those situations?
It was very frustrating. They had a couple where really we was 0 for 6 on 3rd and 1 and 2. 3 of those are quarterback sneaks, or 2 of those were quarterback sneaks. And I watched it again, this week, and we missed tackles on 2nd down 3 times to make it, instead of 3rd and 7 it's now 3rd and 1 and 2. So we was 0 for 6 on 3rd and 1 and 2s. So it does make you go back and like look at yourself like what is going on, but then you got to look at the whole thing. And so 2nd down 2 or 3 times we missed a tackle at the line of scrimmage to make it 3rd and 1 or 2, and that's your percentage is going to be very low. So it goes back to tackling on 2nd and 1st down. So it's not the scheme that we're running. It's obviously we got to compete when you're in man. You got to win those battles in man. The scheme is there. We have good patterns when we came free a couple times, but we missed tackles on 2nd down to put us in tough situations on 3rd down. After I went back and watched it, to answer your question. So,
is there anything more frustrating than that than seeing just missed tackle and the guys are in spots?
You really can't get mad, man. I mean, it's year 21 for me, so you just got to continue to coach and continue to grind it out and make sure that players understand why they missed the tackle. Me, Debo, and Stone today during a special teams period, we spent 10 minutes of just talking about angles and tackling and footwork and just trying to get better. So you don't have time to get mad. You really don't. You got to coach the next play. The sun rises on Sundays. You got to go the next day and keep it moving and stay locked in and stay focused. Every last second of my life is about either my family or this football team. So don't have time to get mad. You really don't, to be honest with you.
When you went back on film, how tough was the play that Stone Blandon made on the interception? And when you think about where he was last year, do you notice that he's able to play more free because he's had a year in the system and kind of understands things?
Absolutely. Stone, he's not the only one that's like put in the work, and he's a football junkie kind of. He loves the grind. He loves the process of understanding scheme and systems, and he did a great job on the play. Jacksonville State is a very fast offense, so they don't have a ton of different plays, but 2 or 3 times this year they ran that same exact formation, same exact play in the same part of the field, and he diagnosed it, scooted through there, made the play, and I was just looking at the referee to make sure he didn't throw the flag. And when he was about to 50, I knew they weren't going to catch him. So, because people on the headset said Stone picked it, I can't really see from the sideline who picked it, but I was literally watching the quarterback to make sure they didn't throw the flag. That's where my head was. But great play. The timing of it was unbelievable. Perfect timing. Yep. I'm very glad he went through there and made the play. Yep.
Clayton, I know you probably don't have it right there in front of you, but roughly how many snaps did Jerron Willis and Bam Martin Scott play against Texas A&M, and then how many against Jacksonville State?
Willis played 8 versus Texas A&M. He played 12 versus Jacksonville State. Bam played in the 20s against Jacksonville State, and in the teens versus A&M.
Clayton, and I know just because of the number of snaps that Stone has played this year, it's easy for people on the outside to forget the kid's only a sophomore still. Maybe some plays didn't go the way that he wanted to earlier in the game, but he's able to come back and make, like you said, probably the most timely play that could have been possible for the defense. What does that speak about in terms of his mental toughness, his maturity as he continues to grow, and where else have you seen him grow from the beginning of the year, just knowing, again, that he's just a sophomore?
Yep. One thing about this job is that I've learned this year for sure is you got to be able to, when you say the word outside, which I think I know what you mean by that. I haven't been outside in a long time. So, but my main job right now is to keep this guy's confidence up, because some things on the outside is probably can beat a kid up. So my job is to make sure that they keep their confidence up, and they keep their chin up, eyes up, and be a man about it, because that's the most important thing. Because every day they got to come to work, which we call this work. But to watch him grow, to watch all of our players grow and grind through this, the season, the month of October that we had, that makes me proud as a football coach to stand in front of them every day and watch them sit up in the chairs and stand tall. So I think that's what it's about, is growth, and that's only gonna make them better in the end, because you can grind through the hard things, and then you also find out who's really in it with you during these tough times. And that's been my preaching point. Like I can look in your eyes and tell how your heart's beating, the way you're shaking, the way you're standing there if you're in the fight when things are tough. And I'm saying it. That's the thing I'm getting from this.
Vanderbilt seems to like to use multiple quarterbacks in game situations and stuff. What do you guys kind of do in practice to simulate multiple guys?
Lenora Sellers is a big help. He's also, and we also have Clayton, and we also have Tanner. So we have multiple guys that can emulate other offenses, and I think they're doing a really good job. So, and obviously our guys understand they have Swan, they have Seals, and they have the big dude number 2, big giant number 2, and so we're doing a good job of just making sure our guys understand by watching tape, and then obviously we're using Lenora to assimilate both.
Yeah, and then with the big guy, Walter Taylor, he's 6'7", 235. Do you guys use your normal quarterbacks on the scout team to kind of simulate that guy, or do you guys bring someone else and that might be a little more sizable and hard to tackle?
Obviously we're not tackling at practice. Sometimes we're not tackling at practice, but Lenora Sellers is obviously the biggest guy that we have at that position to emulate that. So that's a really good situation for us as a defense. So our guys can feel the, kind of what it'll be like on a Saturday.
I know we talked a lot last week about the 3-3-5 and kind of saw it again. Can you just explain what the 3-3-5's purpose is, what that allows you to do, and then what's kind of what you're trying to do when you're changing your formation, and what the point of it is?
Yes, and you saw a lot of snaps of it versus Jacksonville State, because one, they do not allow you to sub, because they don't sub one. So you saw probably double the amount that you normally would see in a game. The main thing for me, it just gives us an opportunity. Like I said, we don't have a lot of rotations up front, so it's giving one of the position groups up front a rest, and we have linebackers that are emerging, the guys that we feel like can help us in areas that we need in regards of speed and perimeter plays and some pass rush and just bodies on the field, and just, and I think our players like it. It's fun, and it's a little bit more active So that's really the main thing of it, and just continue to grow over the years. You know what I mean? So that's it.
Because you don't need to sub the linebackers as much as the defensive linemen.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Like you were saying, the substitution part.
Yeah.
If you have 3 linebackers versus 4 defensive linemen, you wouldn't have to sub the linebackers as much as.
What I meant by that was that Jacksonville State, they was a fast tempo team. So when they literally was ending the play, and then if I was in that personnel group in 3-3-5, I could not sub back to my 4-2 nickel defense and or whatever because of the speed. So you saw a lot more snaps because you were not allowed to substitute back to your normal.
It's to kind of a follow up on that. When you're trying to get a call in when they're going that fast, how challenging is that? Can you put into words like how tough that is to get that in and make sure the guys know where to be and all that?
It's pretty tough because when as I'm saying on the headset, I'm literally saying it as the guy's getting tackled. What I kind of want the next call to be. If it's not with those guys, I mean they literally lined up and they didn't waste any time. They barely checked with me. So you got to get it in as the guy's hitting the ground before the whistle's even blown. Start saying it then, and then the key is they got to look to the sideline. They can't celebrate. You can't talk to your teammates, and that's the part that young football team we kind of missed a couple plays on Saturday because they wouldn't look to the sideline. But that's on me. I got to continue coaching that and make sure they understand. Hey, we don't have time to celebrate. You can't do the seatbelt. You can't do none of that stuff. You got to get your eyes to the sideline and let's get to work. So, but it's not easy.
Yeah. And the other question I had was, I'm sure you talk each week about limiting big plays with your team, but when you look at Vanderbilt and how much they've been able to do that this year, how concerned
Yeah, I
is
mean,
that?
they have wideouts. They have skilled players. They have guys who can take the top off. They have a slot receiver in 83. They have a tight end that's 220 pounds that used to play wide receiver. They have a tight end that's a gunner on punt team. So they have guys that can stretch the field. So our guys understand that we have to do a great job playing top down, make them snap it again. I've always been, let's not give up big plays for touchdowns, but obviously we did last week. That's a backbreaker. And obviously every week I preach that. So we got to continue to make sure we limit that for sure.
You mentioned Lenoris earlier, playing as the scout team kind of quarterback for your defense to go up against. I got to ask, what kind of challenges does he present for the defense during practice, and how good of a simulation is that kind of player for what you get on Saturdays?
It's too good of a look, to be honest with you. He's I just told Coach Dowden, the coach of the locker room, I said, I can't believe how fast that guy is. It's like he's getting faster and bigger every 2 or 3 weeks. So it's too good of a look.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.